Hi, it's Alistair McIntyre here with my video newsletter for the 10th of June 2011. This week's probably going to be a wee bit shorter, but I'll just give you a summary of what's going on in the newsletter. Essentially, we've got the usual articles on the Andersons, who are the missionaries in Africa. At the moment, it looks like that book will be completed next week. We're also continuing on the history of Fetter Cairn, which is a fascinating part of Scotland. That also will be completed by the next newsletter, so you can look forward to 2 new books being started on the site. We're also continuing with our Ain Folk, which I profiled last week. I happen to believe that's a fantastic read, and if you're going to read any book on the site, Our Ain Folk, I think, would be one that you would really enjoy reading, and I am putting up a chapter a day. There's some new articles this week. What I've been doing is I've still been working through old copies of the Scottish Historical Review, and where I find an article that I think is of interest, I'm extracting it and either OCRing it on or putting it into a PDF file. It kind of depends how complex the article is, because some of them are using a lot of the old Scots language, so in that case it's a lot easier for me to make it a PDF file. But this week, if I just look at my list here, we've got the language and literature of the Scottish Highlands. That actually is one sent in by John Henderson, because it was taken out of the Highland newspaper of, I think it was 1891. So and he also sent in the antiquity of the kilt and clam tartans as well, another article from that newspaper. Because it's a very old newspaper, the scan's not really good, but it's certainly readable, and we've messed around with it to try and tidy it up, make it sharper and make it more readable, and I think we've more or less succeeded in that. But I think both of these articles are well worth a read. Other ones I put in is about a book review I found about Macintosh, the Macintosh clan. Unfortunately, the books they refer to I haven't been able to find, but I thought, well, it would be worth still putting that up on the Macintosh page, because any researchers that read that will then become aware of the 2 books and may be able to get hold of them from somewhere. So, but it also gives you a little background into what's in the book. So I think it was a worthwhile addition to put in with our clan page. I also found another book, which is a list of works relating to Scotland. This is a book that was produced by George Black. Now, I think a lot of you may well know of his other book, which is The Surnames of Scotland, which is a fantastic reference book. But as he worked in the New York Public Library, they had a huge collection of books related to Scotland, and he wanted to produce a book that would list the kind of content they have in there. So I think from a point of view of researchers, I think that's a real gold mine, to be honest. But I'm not sure that many of you would normally want to read through it, but you might actually be interested in reading the introduction, because it really points out some amazing contributions that the Scots made to America. And so I've OCR'd in the introduction for you to read. But if you want to read the rest of the book, then there's a link to download the PDF file. The next article we've done is Alexander Farquharson of, Bruchberg and his Farquharson genealogies. Again, this is just me continuing to keep my eye open for any clan information that's available. So again, this is a bit of a synopsis on the book. Then we've got the Royal Regiment of Scots Dragoons. This is actually a series of letters between the Colonel-in-Chief and I forget his name now, Lord someone or other, but they were personal friends. So the letters, while discussing military matters, also go into more personal information between the 2 of them. And so the letters are actually very interesting to read, and give us a wee insight into what life was like in those days. So again, that's available. We've also got the origin of the 45. Now, as you probably know, the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745 just made a huge change to Scotland as it broke the hold that the clan chiefs had, because I think I've mentioned before that clan chiefs, their power came from the number of people they could raise in arms. But after the 45, there was no necessity to raise people in arms, because that was the last battle on British soil. So a lot of things came from that battle that changed Scotland. I mean, eventually led to the Highland clearances and so forth. So this is an extremely good book, looking at how it all came about and how it developed. So I thought that really does need to go on the site, because it's such an important time in Scottish history. And then I found an article on General Robert Melville of Strathconness. And as I kind of read it's a proper article, it's not a book, but it's an article written by his secretary as it happens. And it's a fantastic chap, the way he was brought up and everything. But he ended up doing amazing work in the West Indies. And he also did a lot of negotiation with France for some of the islands that were ceded to France at a later date. So I really enjoyed reading that article. I'm hoping you'll enjoy reading it as well. Then we went on to the site of the new park in relation to the Battle of Bannockburn. This is an article that is trying to explore how the battle went, how the forces were arranged, and the benefits of arranging it in that kind of way. The author of this article actually paced the ground of where the battle was. And because it was a new park, he was able to go back in history and define the perimeters of the new park, because some of the previous analysis was based on erroneous information. So they've also got a picture of the plan of the battle as well with this article. So again, Battle of Bannockburn, again a pivotal time in Scottish history, and I thought that would be a really good article to put up on the site. And then the kind of final article that I put up in this collection was Scotland and the Spanish Armada. I mean, certainly there were some Scots in the English Navy that were there, but this was really more the historical background to the Spanish Armada, because they kept having to consider Scotland in all of this because of its relations with France, for example, and its antipathy towards England. So in all the machinations of the Spanish king, he was always having to look at Scotland, and of course Mary Queen of Scots as well came into that. So it was a kind of fascinating period in history, and it's only by reading an article like that you kind of learn about the relations Scotland had with the world. So again, I thought that was an interesting article. And then we've got a couple of children's stories in this week. One from Elizabeth Green, which I hope you'll enjoy. I'm hoping that she's actually sent us a few more stories in, because I think she's really good, and she's quite a famous writer as well. So we're very happy to get a story in from her. I've also found the Book of the Duffs. Now, I must confess, I think I mentioned some months ago that I spent a lot of time on the Internet Archive trying to find PDF files of books about Scottish clans. And of course, when it came to Macduff, I was searching for Macduff, but it never really occurred to me to search for Duff. So as I stumbled across this and searching for something else, it's a 2-volume set basically, and it's if you're a Macduff, this has got to be a really good book that you'll want to read. So I made that available on the site, giving you a bit of a synopsis to go along with it. One of the new things that we just embarked on this week is a Scot in China of today. I've been very aware that China is making huge progress in the world and is really almost getting to superpower status. So I feel it's incumbent on us to try to understand China a little bit more. And as it happens, an old friend of mine, Ron Dow, who actually ran the pub across from my house in Scotland. And even in those days, he was buying and selling all the time. But now he spends about 6 months every year in China on running his own import-export business. So, having chatted with him, he's agreed to do a series of articles for us, which I hope will end up being weekly articles, where he'll take us through parts of China and give a focus on various aspects of it. He's already sent in 2 articles to get us started, and he's sent a whole ton of really great pictures of China. And actually, I'm quite amazed at how modern their cities are. And I suppose it's like every big city, there's the good bits and there's the poor bits, you know, but at least through Ron's eyes we're going to get to understand a bit more about China. So I hope you'll find that of interest. And then just kind of the final bit I put up, and it was a result of reading Kelly's message in the community. I've been talking about slavery because I've been trying to find out how a Scottish slave master in America might have treated his slave, and to compare that how the local Scots of the same period were treated in Scotland. I just thought it would be a kind of fascinating insight into the differences or even similarities. So on the back of that, I've still got Alice's videos showing, because I did a video about slavery. I was hoping that by doing the video on slavery that people watching it might get in touch and provide me with information about a book, because I was really hoping that a Scot that was a slave owner or plantation owner had written a book about his plantation. And so I was hoping maybe if I put that up and showed people what I was looking at trying to do, that they might actually get in touch. So I've got links in the newsletter to that video. I also did another video about clans and families, and again it was the plea there, I suppose, was I was hoping when people read it that it would encourage them to dig deeper into their own clan histories. And again, get in touch if they have any new contributions they'd like to make to the site for any of the clans. So that's the kind of overall stuff that you'll find in the newsletter. Obviously I put lots of links to all the stuff there. I might add that during the course of the day I'm always doing research. I'm always talking to people all over the world to see whether they can contribute content to the site that would be of interest to us and to all the visitors that come to us. So I'm always working on these kind of little things that go on. I've continued the story of the Jacobites. I've got another big chapter up this week as well. And I say we continue the historical wars of Scotland, and we're still doing the book on Cunningham Graham, who was the fighter for justice, but as you know he was an aristocrat but had ranches in America and South America. So again, I'm finding that's a really good read. So there you go, that's it in a nutshell. That's what you'll find in the newsletter this week. I hope you'll find some of the material of interest, and certainly I hope you'll enjoy a rain folk, because I personally think that's a great insight into how people lived back in those days, and they're really charming accounts. So there you go, that's the newsletter. Hope you enjoy it.